You know the feeling. The endless scroll, the pressure to curate your life into a neat aesthetic grid, the constant hum of anxiety that you are missing out on something happening right now. It is a very specific type of modern exhaustion. It's tempting to blame this entirely on the tech industry. We point to algorithmic feeds, engagement metrics, and engineers designing addictive software as the source of our collective burnout. Tech companies scaled a behavioral vulnerability that has existed in human sociology for millennia. They provided the infrastructure for a psychological glitch they did not create. To understand what is actually happening in our brains when we open an app, we have to look back 250 years before the internet was even conceived. We have to look at the 18th century philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. He mapped out this exact crisis centuries ago. If we want to understand how a screen alters our identity, we need to trace our behavior back to the original moment humanity traded its peace of mind for the attention of others. While other thinkers pictured early humanity locked in a brutal, constant war for survival, Rousseau saw something different. He argued that in our primitive state, before civilization, humans were mostly solitary, highly independent, and generally content. Looking at this text, Rousseau identified two drivers of pre-social humans: amour de soi, self-preservation, and piété, empathy. Because their needs were limited, they lived entirely in the present. These limited desires rarely caused major conflicts, meaning they lacked the capacity for lasting hatred. Crucially, in this scattered, isolated existence, there was no ego, there was no jealousy, and there was no vanity. Why? Because there was no one around to watch them. The concept of an audience simply didn't exist. Without the external gaze of a community judging them, early humans had absolutely no incentive, and frankly no mechanism, to be anything other than completely authentic to their immediate needs. But that solitary peace eventually broke. As populations grew and environments changed, humans were forced to interact more frequently, eventually settling into the very first permanent neighborhoods. This page outlines a critical turning point. People gathered, as Rousseau writes, before their huts round a large tree. Once gathered, they began to watch one another. Inevitably, they desired being looked at, attaching a value to public esteem. Suddenly, being the best singer or the strongest hunter was about status, not just utility. An action was performed, observed by the group, and converted into a metric of public approval. It is the exact same transaction as posting a photo today and accumulating likes. Because attention was finite, it became a prize to be won. This scarcity transformed a group activity into a competition, giving rise to vanity, shame, and envy, as individuals fought bitterly for a higher rank in public opinion. The moment human worth became tied to external observation rather than internal contentment, we constructed our very first inescapable social network. Once public esteem became the dominant currency of human life, people had to adapt. Securing that validation required a constant, forced performance, gradually eroding our original, natural wildness. Rousseau observed this pressure created a systematized way of acting, noting, "There prevails in modern manners a servile and deceptive conformity." We became trapped by expectations. As he puts it, we no longer dare seem what we really are, but lie under a perpetual restraint. That 18th century perpetual restraint is the exact same mechanism driving you to delete a post that didn't get enough likes. It is the compulsion to present a curated, socially optimized version of your life, stripping away your rough edges to fit the mold. Social media apps function as high-speed engines designed to enforce this deceptive conformity on a microscopic daily scale. Algorithms effectively trapped us in a permanent version of that original village square. We are stuck in a constant loop of mutual observation that human nature was never built to sustain at this scale. But there is a critical difference. In Rousseau's physical village, a person could eventually walk away, go back into the forest, and be alone. Today, we carry the village in our pockets, bringing the pressure of the crowd into our commutes and our private moments. Recognizing this shifts the stakes. The exhaustion and anxiety you feel online isn't a personal failure or a lack of resilience. It is a reaction to an entirely artificial metric of human value. We obviously can't abandon civilization and return to the solitary state of nature, but we do have the agency to recognize when we are performing for the feed rather than living for ourselves. By examining our digital burnout through a centuries-old warning, we gain the power to consciously step back. We can choose to stop optimizing our lives for public esteem and start reclaiming the quiet dignity of our unobserved selves.